3 a.m., you're wide awake again, or maybe you had difficulty falling asleep in the first place, or you're tossing and turning all night. Sleep issues. It's a big, big problem. We see this all the time in clinic. Today, what we're going to do is really decode the sleep dysfunction that we have and dive deeply, just like we've done for inflammation, into what the root cause is. So when we think about someone who's coming into the clinic complaining of insomnia, we're going to really just not offer them a blanket solution straight up. We're going to do a deep dive, as I said, and figure out like what is actually happening, what the pattern is. And so today we're going to talk about those different sort of patterns as helping us to reveal those clues about what could be going on. So let's get into it.
Get into it.
Okay.
All right.
So what is happening with all the sleep problems that we're seeing?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a huge, huge problem,
Yes.
right? What are the statistics? Like 35% of Americans get less than 7 hours of sleep
7 hours
a
of
night.
sleep. I'm gonna fall into that.
Right. Yeah. So, and you're in a different category because, you know, you've got
young
little
kids.
ones.
Those
so,
kids
yeah.
keeping me
So
up at
hopefully
night.
that's somewhat temporary.
But yeah, and then even more staggering is that 9 million Americans are taking sleep medications. And that is a big number.
Yeah.
And honestly, we do not have great sleep medications. They do not work well, and they really disrupt the architecture of your sleep. So they might actually increase the length of time you're sleeping or help you fall asleep faster, but you're not getting that deep REM sleep that you need.
Right.
So
So
you're not
the restorative aspect of
Exactly.
why sleep is actually so important for your
Yes.
health to begin with is not fully addressed when
Right.
you're just taking a prescription sedative type medication.
Yep. Yeah. And then, I think we should start with talking about what does normal sleep actually look like, because I think so many of us have abnormal sleep. We don't even know what it should look like.
How long should it take us to fall asleep, right? I
Right.
don't think anyone even knows what that is.
Yes.
Right?
And this is a pet peeve of mine where it can take 10, 20 minutes to fall asleep.
Which would be considered in the normal range.
Exactly.
If your head is hitting the pillow, I mean, this happens occasionally, but if you're someone that just falls asleep like in seconds, like that's not great either.
No.
Like good, you're getting to sleep, you're
Right.
not having a problem with sleep latency, but that's a sign that maybe you're like, not getting enough sleep.
Exactly.
You're,
You're
burning the
overdoing
candle
it.
at both ends,
Right.
that sort of thing.
Exactly. But I really want to just hone in again. We are in a society right now where we want everything to be quick, easy, and fast. Like our attention spans are so short, right? Social media is playing into that. So for some people, laying for 10 minutes, that's a long time. And that's really challenging for some people. And so again, we need to reiterate that 10 to 20 minutes is normal. And just because it's been 5-7 minutes, don't go grabbing that phone yet,
Right.
because that's just going to prolong the process.
Yeah. And it's sort of, we're so stressed and anxious and you're so primed. It can often kind of play out when you lay down at night,
Yes.
right? So that can be a piece of it. And that's something we would talk about, right? When we're trying to understand what's happening with someone's health, their stress, their sleep patterns, anxiety. Is like, okay, well, what's it like when you're falling asleep at night? Are you feeling somewhat anxious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of that is because our lifestyles are so busy these days. And so I tell my patients, well, first I'm always asking them, what does your night look like? Like, what does it look like when you get home from work? Because I really want to hone in on that transitionary period of time where you've decompressed, dinner is done, right? And we're trying to relax, or we like doing work and then expecting to just shut the laptop, brush our teeth, and go right to bed, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not going to work that way. So, but we're going to get into all of that. Maybe we just spend a quick minute here talking about why sleep is important. I think we all know that sleep is important. And we touched a little bit on this in our previous episode all about dementia and brain health. We did 2 episodes on that.
Yep.
But again, just to remind people here, sleep is really when we detoxify our brain with our glymphatic system. That's the immune system, or kind of the garbage cleaners, right, of of our brain and that fluid surrounding our brain. And that's most active when we're sleeping. It's a little bit active during the day, but really picks up
Right.
at
Like
night.
I think 10 times more active
Yes,
at night.
exactly.
And this is why if you're having chronic problems with sleep, and we'll go into the details of what that actually could look like, but this is why you could be at a higher risk of having dementia with like chronic insomnia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Hormone regulation is really important here. A lot of our hunger hormones are really impacted by our sleep. We have increased insulin resistance when we have less sleep. And then you've got your cortisol, your growth hormone, right? Like there's a lot going on there.
And then,
so.
like if you're short on sleep, even for people that are, purposefully staying up too late and they're like, oh, I'm fine, I can just sleep on these, 4 hours of sleep or whatever, it does impact all those hunger hormones. And research has shown that you'll eat on average 300 calories more per day if your sleep is reduced. So there's a lot going on there. Mental health, of course, heart health. There's a lot of really significant reasons why we as naturopathic doctors are always asking people about like, how are you sleeping, right? And getting into the details. Is it enough sleep? Is it restorative sleep?
Yep, definitely. Okay, so now similar to what we've done with inflammation in our previous episodes, we're really going to categorize sleep based on root causes and different patterns.
Yeah.
So the first one we're focusing on is that person who can't fall asleep. So you are wired at night. And maybe even you actually feel tired when you get home from work, or maybe in that like 3 to 6 p.m. range, you're like, oh, I could go to bed right now. That energy crashes, but then you are ready to go at night.
Right.
So
you get that,
frustrating.
Like, second wind. I call it like you need like the sleep train where people are not going to bed. That's another thing that will do it, right? Where they are tired maybe at 9:30 and then they're on their phones, they're watching TV, whatever they're doing, they're just like rebelling against going to bed so early, and then they push it a half hour more, and now they're wide awake and can't even fall asleep, right?
It's just like my kids. If you miss that window of opportunity, they're
the sleep train is gone. You gotta wait for it to come again.
Yeah, and this is true, and I hear this so much, especially from moms who are like, I have not had a moment to myself all day. So yeah, I know it's 9:30 and I know I should go to bed, but like, I just need to scroll. I just need to watch something.
Yeah.
And so what I offer them as a potential, treatment here is we flip the switch and I say, go to bed early and wake up earlier. Get that scroll time. I mean, we all need a little scroll time, but get that time to yourself in the morning because it's always more restorative to change that circadian rhythm to match the sunset, sunrise, right?
Yes.
And so go to bed earlier. Nothing good happens after 8 p.m., right? You're snacking, you're on your phone, and then have that me time in the morning because you're usually doing things that are better for our health: exercise, journaling, meditation, sunlight, walking, right? Anyway.
So if we're thinking about the pattern of like the primary issue, the complaint is, oh my gosh, I'm having trouble falling asleep. It's an hour, 2 hours, I can't fall asleep. And this becomes a vicious cycle. And then you start to get like this preemptive sleep anxiety about like even going to bed, and that's building. But in terms of root causes, like that is often part of the picture, right? Like nervous system regulation, anxiety is a big piece of the equation there, dysregulated cortisol levels, like those are the things that we start to look at with that specific pattern.
Exactly. We might see a high cortisol level in the evening and a low melatonin level. You can actually measure melatonin levels. Who knew, right?
Yeah.
But that is part of our circadian rhythm, right? High cortisol, low melatonin. That's the opposite of what it should be in the evening. And so that's a huge barrier to actually falling asleep. Like you said, anxiety and rumination are a huge issue here. Even if you're not anxious, so many patients are like, oh, my brain is just going, right? And that's because, again, we might not have that transitionary period of time where we say, okay, I'm done with work. I'm done thinking about logistics. Tomorrow's problems can wait until tomorrow. Like, I really need to calm down.
Right, like cognitively, you need to kind of flip the switch, right?
Exactly.
So those are the types of things when we think about like, how are we going to fix this? And are Are there any like circadian rhythm issues here with this as well? Are they not getting light exposure in the morning? Like those are some of the things that we start thinking about here for that person that's describing this pattern. And really digging into what's happening with energy throughout the day. So now we're trying to figure out, okay, is this more of a stress adrenal picture? And there can be many layers to this, right? Multiple different causes. Is this something where it is more like nervous system driven, right? So then when we're thinking about how to treat it, right? Then that helps us figure out like what's going to be most effective for that person. And sometimes melatonin can be useful here, but melatonin doesn't work for everyone, but it's probably because, melatonin is not working for you, then that's not the reason you're having a sleep problem. Right?
Exactly. Yep. So in terms of where we start with treatments, I'm really like asking questions from the beginning of the day. So what does the beginning of your day look like? What's your energy at different time points? And so a couple of key things that I really try to help patients with is, again, are we waking up closer to the sun? Like, are we getting that morning sunlight? Really, really important, because so many of us, we just wake up, we roll out of bed, we grab something quick. If we have kids, we get them off to school, we go to work, and then we're often in a building without sunlight.
In artificial light and on a screen and all of that, which is majorly problematic. And then if you have that luxury of sleeping in, then that becomes a problem too, right? Where we might have to work around like shifting that sleep cycle because someone's, staying up till like 1 o'clock and then they're sleeping until 10.
Right.
I've worked with that with patients as well.
Oh, definitely.
And then, so you're looking at the whole day, then you're looking at the evening routine, right? And then the bedroom, like the sleep environment is important too.
Yes, absolutely. We want to make sure it's dark, it's quiet. We actually want to make sure it's a little bit cooler as well. Our environment should be cooler rather than warm. Like we often want to just be like covered in so many blankets. It's been the winter here in New England.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of my menopause patients are like, no, that is not me. I need a fan. It needs to be cold, right? So that can be problematic too. Really dark. Even some people can be sensitive to like EMFs. And so you can even think about going back to an old school alarm clock so that you don't have your phone in your room. And then
covering your phone with these like blockers that block EMF. You can actually get like Faraday cases to put your phone in. There's a lot that you can do there. But especially with nervous system regulation, the EMFs are a major problem for a lot of people.
You can think about turning your Wi-Fi off at night as well. So all really important there. The next thing we're thinking about for this sleep pattern is, when was the last time you had caffeine, chocolate? We are in a big Coke phase, like Diet Cokes. Everyone on social media is drinking soda again. And I'm like, why is this happening? Social media has made soda cool again, and I'm not here for it. Stop it. Enough. Energy drinks are huge. Alani, Celsius. These have 200 milligrams of caffeine. That is not okay. No. We shouldn't be doing that. So you really want to take inventory of caffeine and, morning, afternoon, the amount, all that stuff. Remember, chocolate has a bit of caffeine. So if you're snacking on chocolate like me before bed, right? We got to be careful about that too.
Right. So. And some people are more sensitive than others, right? We have genetics that dictate how fast you clear caffeine out of your system. So I know, like some of you, I can do this. Like I can have caffeine in the evening, go straight to sleep and check my sleep score and everything. It's totally fine. But not everybody has that profile. So that's something to think about. So then we think about like in terms of supplements. We mentioned like melatonin could be an option here for some people that could potentially be beneficial. Lower doses we typically start with here and then dosing it, like an hour or 2 hours before bed, right? So that you can't just take it and like hop in bed and expect to be asleep in 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's a key with all supplements. I'm always telling my patients, you want to take that supplement about an hour before you're going to bed because it needs some time to work. Absolutely.
And if you're someone that runs like if this is something where it's really heavy nervous system driven, there's a lot of anxiety, you've developed like actual sleep anxiety, then I'm having them back these supplements up even more. And a lot of times then we're using calming herbs, you know, we're using things like passion flower and valerian and lavender and things to really calm the system down. And that can be like a couple of hours before, and then just like doing calming activities and making sure that whole environment is set up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would say herbs, like when we're talking about supplements and nutraceuticals to help with sleep, I feel like this is really a place where herbs shine and they are underutilized.
Absolutely.
So I think, you know, hops, passion flower, like California poppy, those are some of my favorite herbs. I love them so much because they do work so well for sleep.
Yeah.
Of course, magnesium is a great place to start. Like if you are struggling with sleep and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much, I don't know where to go, start with a good magnesium glycinate. You can't go wrong there.
Yeah. So, and yes, like the form matters. So when we're thinking about sleep there, we're thinking magnesium glycinate. And for some people, even like we'll switch around the form. It could be like glycerophosphate. I'm really loving right now because that really gets to the brain. 3-8 is another one, not as effective as the glycerophosphate, but some people swear by that. And then L-theanine, I think, is another one that's pretty nice in here in this mix. So maybe, next we move on to kind of like the next sleep profile. And of course, these can be mixed where you can have trouble falling asleep and then you're waking up also. But some people only have this pattern where, you know, they can't stay asleep. They're waking up 1 or 2 times a night, or they're waking up just once a night and they're awake for, you know, an hour, 2 hours, and so then we have to start thinking about like, well, what's causing that wake up, right? Like first thing, you know, are you getting up and going to the bathroom? Has that woken you up? And now, okay, you can't get back to sleep. And we're thinking about fluids. And of course, then, you know, looking to see if there's anything medically going on there.
And
but a lot of other things could be causing this, right?
And with the fluid piece, what I'll also say there is a lot of people only drink coffee, right, in the first half of their day, and then they come home and they're like, oh, I haven't had any water today.
I'm going to hydrate now and get my 60 ounces
Exactly. So that could be a problem. I do see that pretty often. But then the next thing that we're really paying attention to is blood sugar. Are we having hypoglycemic episodes or low blood sugar episodes during the night? Very common. It does happen. And so this can get a little bit complicated with really trying to figure out what we're doing in the earlier part of our day or the evening that's leading to this, right? And so one example might be actually that you're having a lot of carbohydrate-rich snacks before bed, right? They usually are carbohydrate-rich. And so when you eat those carbohydrates, that blood sugar increases, but then it comes down during the night.
So they're basically getting a crash, and then their cortisol is going to spike and adrenaline to get that glucose back up. And now you're awake. And you don't, and in a lot of cases, you don't feel necessarily hungry, right? Because it's like the cortisol and adrenaline has woken you up and it's gotten your blood sugar up. So you might not necessarily, like most people aren't waking up and they're hungry, although some people could. But that's something that you can pretty easily identify by talking about like, what are your patterns, dietary patterns throughout the day? And of course, like thinking about testing here and screening, you know, for blood sugar abnormalities and insulin resistance, all that sort of stuff. So that's easy enough to start to figure out like root cause. And again, like related to cortisol, there could be a cortisol issue and you can do some cortisol testing there. But a lot of times it's just like, let's clean up the pattern of your diet throughout the day and you can start sleeping well, right?
Because even if you have a good dinner or a healthy dinner that's balanced for blood sugar, if you know, started your day off with a bagel or a croissant and, you know, a sugary beverage, then that can actually still lead to sugar issues during the night. So really looking at that full day of what's happening there.
Yes, for sure. And it could be a full adrenal picture in some of these cases, right?
Yep, definitely. The next thing is alcohol. So alcohol is a big one here as to waking you up during the night. I mean, alcohol affects our sleep on so many levels.
Like you don't get as restorative sleep.
Definitely
it
not.
disrupts those deep sleep cycles. You can't even get into them.
Right.
But yeah, like full on, then just like waking up. You can't get back to sleep.
Exactly. So it's the alcohol, of course, itself. It's your liver trying to clear that. But what's interesting is I wore a continuous glucose monitor a couple of years ago. And I purposely wore it at a time when I was going to be having some more indulgent meals, we'll say. So my husband and I went to Disney, actually. And we had...
That's a good place to test it.
It's a good place to test it, right?
That's for sure.
And I have really solid insulin control. So it takes a lot for me, you know, to see changes in insulin. But I drank, like I had alcohol.
Yeah.
And I just remember I had so many episodes of hypoglycemia during the night. Even though I didn't have those alcoholic beverages at night, I had them during the day. I was exercising, like we were walking around in Disney, and I still had
it was impacting your sleep
and
at
that
night.
sensor it woke me up so many times because that my glucose was so low. So alcohol can impact sleep in a lot of different ways.
That's a really good point, right? Yep.
And then, of course, hormonal changes too, right? Menopause is our classic example here, where estrogen is, you know, all over the place. And that can cause us to have hot flashes, which can wake us up. We've got some great naturopathic remedies for that. But that's
that's easy enough to identify. Like, are you like feeling overheated or having night sweats? Sometimes it's a progesterone deficiency, and that can cause, some women can have problems with anxiety even. That could cause some sleep latency, and the progesterone correction could fully fix that. But even that same pattern of disrupted sleep could respond to progesterone.
Yep, exactly. And then, you know, we want to just briefly talk about some traditional Chinese medicine practices here. We should note we are not actually certified in TCM here, but it's part of what naturopaths do.
The perspective of it. And we have like, you know, like some overview
training
of it,
there,
but not fully certified.
But what is really cool about this is TCM believes that certain organs are related to certain wake times during the night. So that 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. could signify something going on with our gallbladder. That 1 to 3 a.m. liver, maybe some anger going on there, because organs are also related to different emotions. And then 3 to 5 a.m. some lung congestion there is what we see.
And then lungs are kind of like the organs of grief, sadness.
Exactly. Right? So really cool perspective there. Great topic to talk about if you have an acupuncturist or a TCM provider.
Absolutely. Or to dig into with like if you're doing some spiritual work or therapy to explore those issues that could be related.
Definitely. Okay, so that's pretty good for this pattern.
Right, and in terms of supplements here, I mean, we touched on some of the approaches that you would take in terms of dietary management, things to avoid, that sort of thing, addressing hormones. But this might be a situation where I might consider something like a time-released melatonin, so it's pulsing out. That can be something that could be a root cause of why you're waking up. Magnesium can be helpful here as well. And then glycine is a supplement, and like magnesium glycinate is like chelate that you can use, but you can use straight up glycine here, right?
Definitely. Yeah. And I like glycine. It can come in like powder, chewable forms too. And that's not going to make you feel really groggy in the morning. So if you need to take that during the night when you wake up for some reason, then that's cool too.
But a lot of times I find, like the strategies can work really well, and a lot of like magnesium can work in both situations here, where it can improve that sleep architecture.
All right, pattern 3. This is when we are consistently waking up before our alarm, maybe an hour, 45 minutes, somewhere in that time frame, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like come on, this is the worst.
I'm shorting myself like an hour or so, right?
Exactly. But then it's harder to fall asleep because you're just like, oh, that alarm's going to go off soon anyway. So tricky here. Typically what's happening, or a common pattern, is that cortisol is rising too early, or earlier than we want it to be. And so that, like we've mentioned, often connects back to what happened during the evening, the previous day, because remember, cortisol is just not one point in time. It really is a cycle and a rhythm. So we really need to look at that full rhythm. This is where like a 4 or 6 point cortisol test can be super helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Another common driver that we'll look at here for that pattern would be depression as well,
Yes,
right? So
yeah.
we got to kind of dig into mood there, along with, we're looking at the cortisol pattern as well. And then as we age, you'll see this being a more common pattern as we get older, lower levels of melatonin affecting that sleep architecture as well, not getting that really deep sleep there.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing to think about with this one is, okay, if we are consistently waking up earlier, let's think about going to bed earlier so we can shift it, because it could be your body trying to sync up with that sunrise, with a change of season, right? With that natural light rhythm. And
Right.
that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, so
per
it
se.
could actually be self-regulation,
Yeah.
right? So we definitely want to look out for that.
Yeah.
There's a lot to think about here. We might have to do some more work,
Yeah,
like
we need
more
a second episode
on
on
this,
sleep here.
because there can be a lot of other things like sleep apnea we didn't
Yes.
get into, chronic pain,
Yep.
reflux. Like there's a lot of other
So
things
much
that
going
could
on.
be going on there. But yeah, I think we'll maybe follow up with another episode
I think so, too.
on this as well. But that's a good start, I feel like. And I mean, in summary, when we're thinking about sleep, as we went over, we really want to look at all these root causes. So not just throw a bunch of supplements at it. It could be, lifestyle driven. It could be that, you're dealing with circadian rhythm issues. We need to look at what's happening in the environment in the room, all that sort of stuff. So really back to root cause medicine as usual here on the Natural Doctors.
Always.
So thanks for joining us, and don't forget to subscribe, and you'll see lots more on our site all about these sleep issues. Thanks for joining us.
Nutmeg TV has been providing community television for over 30 years. We needed some studio upgrades, and Ion Bank believed in us. You're working with partners who understand who you are, and Ion Bank does that. It's community banking at its best.
Like us on Facebook. Search Nutmeg TV.